Blossoming, botanical and flowing forms with spikes and thorns at their edges. This is the dark romance of Ali Zalzali's first couture collection at Paris Fashion Week. The Franco-Lebanese designer presented his meticulously hand-stitched ensembles under the title Natura Morta, and he's in the studio to tell us more. Hi Ali, thanks for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Now, these are really dramatic pieces. They almost feel like they're growing out of some of your models. Tell us about some of the inspiration here.
It's very funny that you say that they're growing out, because it is a big part of the reflection and of the philosophy of the collection. The inspiration of the collection is basically a parallelism between the life of a plant and the life of us humans. So it explains the different stages from being conceived to being born, to growing up, to arriving to the prime of life, to being consumed by life, and then at the end to end this physical state that we are in a big spiritual way, and finishing our life as a spirit.
Wow. And of course, Natura Morta suggests the end or the death of something, while its English translation, still life, is a bit more vital. Which one do you think is closer to the spirit of your collection?
It's funny because I was very doubtful at the beginning whether I should call it Natura Morta or Still Life, because they are very, very different. It is still life because what I wanted was to capture each moment of our life and each moment of the life of a part of nature. So I think it is Natura Morta because we have a little kind of dark approach to it, but it's very much alive.
So it's absolutely both in that cycle of life, as you mentioned. Now, the collection was presented in a very cinematic short film. Let's take a look at another clip. Now, that film was directed by Clara de Goubert. You feature as an actor as well. I wondered, how did you work on the cinematography together, the storytelling aspect of this?
I was on a plane and I was wondering how I wanted to showcase, it's the first collection, so it has to be very editorial and it has to be impactful. I was like, what do I do? What do I do? And then at a certain point, I was like, wait, hold on a second. I've always been inspired by short films. One of the short films that really inspired me were Vincent by Tim Burton, and Rocky Horror Picture Show. And I wanted to, to just decide on taking a video that would be more than just some sort of image. I wanted it to showcase the whole DNA of my brand. I wanted it to showcase all my universe, because if I do a presentation or a fashion show, all my images are going to be almost the same. I wanted a declaration that was bigger than that, an invitation to really, from the first time, to understand what's happening in this brain and what's happening, behind that. And I think that's why I was like, no, I think I should do a short film.
Yeah, and we really get that atmosphere of sort of gothic glamour. Now, you grew up in Lebanon, then you studied in Italy, you set up as a designer here in Paris. Where do you think you see the mark of those places on the work you make?
I think each place had a different impact, and a very important impact on my upcoming. In Lebanon, for example, I grew up between Beirut, the city, and the countryside, where I was in touch with all these flowers, all these trees. I was really in touch with nature, and that's when I started appreciating nature. Then, as well, growing up there, it allowed me to have big dreams, because, it's a small country that pushes everyone to dream big. And it gave me ambition, a lot of ambition. Then in Italy, I it was my first real experience in the luxury business, in the luxury industry. And that's when I was like, that's how it functions. Okay. And I started to get to know more and more, let's say, this universe. And then arriving to Paris, it is the capital of couture. So it all led to that. So that's where I learned how to master all the technical skills. I learned how to build a collection as well, because I had the chance to work in different fashion houses. So, and some are very big, and it was an amazing experience. And that's where I learned all the other, the satellite kind of functions for the collection to happen and for the brand to happen.
Yeah, so there are all these layers, emotional, intellectual, professional. Yeah, indeed. Well, we're staying in Paris, in fact, and taking a look now at an artist whose Egyptian roots are explored in his paintings, photography and films. Youssef Nabil has a new exhibition at the Musée d'Orsay in the section of the gallery dedicated to Orientalist art. The show's called To Dream Again. Marine Léger and Antonia Kerrigan went to check it out.
Photographer, painter and filmmaker Youssef Nabil's photographs are captured on film and colorised by hand, making his unique style. The reflections on nostalgia and exile are now on show at the Musée d'Orsay, home to some of Nabil's own inspirations. It was here that he first laid eyes on the dream by 19th century symbolist painter Puvis de Chavannes.
For me, dreaming is an important moment. We can receive certain messages and access a whole other world. We visit others and they visit us, those who went before us in that other world.
His work is on display in the part of the museum historically dedicated to Orientalist painting. 19th century representations of the Middle East, sometimes fraught with the clichés of exoticism.
The work of Youssef Nabil draws on some of the Orientalist commonplaces like, for instance, belly dancing and the odalisque, which many now see as clichés in a colonial context. But what's interesting is that he reclaims and transforms them by showing strong women. He sublimates the cliché.
Self-portraits have also become a recurring motif for Nabil. Reflective works which have allowed him to access his inner self, once again in bright colours and in dreamlike ethereal states. The exhibition ends with his work in video, on show until the 13th of September 2026.
So we see there how Youssef Nabil mixes this inspiration from old masters, classical art forms, with a very contemporary presentation using technology, film, photography, etc. And I wondered how that echoes in couture. For example, it's done by hand, it's very old-fashioned, but now we have AI, algorithmic design. Do you see technology coming in to sweep and change things in high fashion?
I think AI is a tool that we should not be afraid of. I don't think AI is here to replace creation, because let's not forget that AI is basically a summary of existing data. So it will never be able to necessarily create. It will most likely going to give us an average of the existing. So I'm not really scared by AI, or I don't think we should be scared by AI, at least on a creative point of view, because with creation comes mostly you need to live to be able to create and to be able to give an extra sense of creation in general.
So hopefully the machines haven't got that sophisticated yet to live our same experiences. Now, you mentioned that you've worked with some of the big fashion industry players, Eddie Saab, Gucci, Vuitton, those kind of people. And every year we hear that couture is not sustainable, it's too much work for too small a clientele. Where do you think the sector's heading?
I mean, I definitely think that couture is a very niche is a very niche sector. But we need couture most of all to remind us of what dreaming is all about. Couture is made for communication mostly. It's not necessarily made to sell. It's here to present us the best things that a fashion house or an artist or a couturier can do. And yeah, and then I think it's mostly about ready-to-wear that needs to be reviewed. Not necessarily couture, because couture never really changed, I might say, in history. We still use the same kind of techniques, the same type of gestures. Like, for example, for a flower that I was making for one of the looks, I had to cut by hand and paint by hand and form with these kind of irons every single petal before assembling the flower. So all these gestures haven't changed since, like hundreds of years.
And a robot definitely can't do that for the moment. And finally, we've asked you what's on your cultural radar at the moment. You flagged up the latest season of Drag Race France. What do you love about it?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a big well of inspiration. I mean, first of all, it has two very important parts. One is very societal and one that is very creative. So it's insane and beautiful to see at the same time an art form that has a meaning and that is profound.
Absolutely, creativity at its centre there. Ali, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll leave you with a reminder of some of the twinkling talents featured in Drag Race France and, of course, some of those fabulous looks. Do check in with us next time here on Arts 24 for more fashion, films, arts and culture. There's more news coming up on France 24 just after this.